it's me. And today I'm here with you making a craft live. I guess it's not really a craft. I'm making balloon dog earrings. And I got these little charms from Hobby Lobby. They were almost $4. And today I'm just going to be piecing these together and we're going to be having a little chat. So most of my viewers out there, especially my loyal, longtime viewers, know that I am a teacher. I am a middle school band director and a co-director for a high school band. And I'm going into year 3 of teaching, which is honestly surprising. When I graduated college, this is not at all where I thought I was going to end up. It's a good place where I ended up. I'm very happy with where I am. But when you are a fresh graduate, you don't think you're even going to make it. There's a lot of doubt. Now that I am going into my 3rd year, I wanted to hop on here and just have a chat with you all because I know my viewers literally range from middle school to college to beyond. All right, let's jump right in and start crafting. We have 4 different colors. We have clear, yellow, blue, and pink, and they're kind of iridescent and shiny, so I'm really excited to get into these. So the first few questions I'm going to answer are going to have to do with job search and first year realities. So for college seniors or recent grads looking for their first band job right now, what is your #1 piece of advice for the interview process? Well, hopefully I'm talking to seniors and not recent grads, because if I'm talking to grads with this question right now, you better hope that there is a mid-year position open because you just missed the train. Hope you got a job. But if I'm talking to a college senior who is going into their senior year and will likely be starting student teaching soon, or as we called it at Tech, residency, my #1 piece of advice is to definitely look at a broad spectrum of places. Don't make the mistake of going into something with just the mindset that you have one particular thing that you want. It doesn't always work out the way that you intend. My case is a little bit special. When I went to Tech, I was 3 hours away from my hometown, and I just remember the whole time that I was in student teaching, I really had a dream job in mind. I wanted to go back to my hometown. I had so many people tell me that I needed to make sure I look elsewhere because you're not going to get that job. And I just remember I never really felt discouraged when I got told not to look at my hometown, just more determined to. When it came time to look for jobs, my current position had not been posted yet. I was looking for schools around the Middle Tennessee through Knoxville area to my hometown, which is in East Tennessee. I was a little discouraged then because there was no ideal position, if that makes sense. This is a funny story now because at the time I was like, what in the world is happening? I was at the dentist right after graduating. So many of my colleagues from college had already gotten jobs and the pressure was already on. Mind you, this was end of May. I had not been graduated a month yet, and I was already stressed out. So there's another point. Don't stress in that first month after you graduate if you don't have a job. It doesn't always work out like that. And I was in the dentist, and I had gotten a call from my high school band director. And, he and I had remained on friendly terms when I graduated. I was drum major in high school, and he knew I was going into education. And basically the whole thing of, if you need a reference, if you need help, text, call me, whatever. He called me, and this man is not the man just to randomly call someone to chat about their day. And I knew something was up. Didn't know what, but I knew something was a little funky. Luckily, I was at the end of my appointment, so I went outside and I called him straight away. And he said, Lily, the position at my home middle school is opening. They're merging. They're adding another position. And you need to apply for this. And immediately it was like, yes, this is exactly what I want. And of course, I was still going to be involved with high school marching band, which is exactly what I wanted. So I said, okay. I drove home, about a 30-minute drive, and I applied immediately. And it was kind of scary because it was actually the second place that I had applied for. I had applied for an elementary position about 45 minutes away from home, and I did not want it. Let me just go ahead and be completely transparent. I did not want it. I just felt like it was the only place within a decent distance to where I could live at home. Let me move this closer because my voice is already getting tired, so I'm going to start talking a little lower. I got asked for an interview at the elementary job that I knew I didn't want. And going into that interview, honestly, I was dreading it. I was still working at the hospital, so I actually had to take the interview on my lunch break, which was not pleasant. So I was sitting in my dad's office because we worked at the same place on the phone with an elementary school board of admin, pretty much. And because I had just freshly gotten out of elementary education, that was my last semester of residency. I did 2. I had all these ideas on how I could be a great elementary teacher. And the whole time I'm saying these great things that I had experience with, I'm thinking, oh gosh, I'm making myself sound really too good. And I started worrying, of course, because that's what Lily does. And I thought, oh my gosh, I really did good in that interview. I didn't want the job. But I was acing this interview, and I had never felt so good about an interview just to feel sick about it when I got off the Zoom call. A couple days later, I was at work, and they called me and offered me the job. And I just remember I felt sick because I didn't want to turn down the only position I had interviewed for because I had no other options on the table at the moment. But I didn't want the job. And of course, there's something in you that says, this isn't right. I didn't want to shut the door immediately, so I said, can you give me until Friday? And the guy on the phone was a little weird, and this might have been the next, bullet dodged. But he said, you really need that long to decide? I mean, it was probably a couple of days. You really need that much time to decide? And I said, yes, I've got a couple of other options, which was a lie. I want to see what comes of those before I make a final decision. Well, he finally was just like, okay, well, I need to know by Friday at the latest. And I was like, okay, sure. Right after I got off the phone, I got a message from my now retired principal offering me an interview on Friday. And it was so bizarre because it's like, oh my gosh, that lined up way too perfectly. This is Friday. Okay. So I was excited. I went in and I told my boss at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got another interview for the position I actually want. And I think I'm going to turn down this other one. Of course, everybody's like, why are you turning it down? Take the job. For reasons they will never understand. And I will spare you the details because it was a big hodgepodge of mess. So I went into my interview and I didn't know that my high school director was going to be there. I just thought my admin was going to be there. And I walked in and there he was. And I sat down and the interview was honestly kind of mid. I felt like. Of course, that was probably because I wanted the position, right? So I'm in there and they're asking me theoretical questions. How would you deal with this? If a student was struggling with this, what would you do? How do you feel about taking on these kinds of responsibilities? And the whole time I'm like, I don't know about this. I don't feel very good about this. I kept my head held high. I was like, keep the most positive mindset and attitude that I can. And the problem with interviewing at your home middle school is that the majority of the people sitting at the table you were taught by. Most of the admin that were sitting at that table, 4 out of 5 of the admin sitting at that table had me in class or had been a principal or admin when I was in middle school. And then, of course, I had my high school band director sitting next to me, asking me questions. And then I had another director who I had went to high school with at the table. So it felt awkward, I guess. I left out that interview, and I actually made a video that afternoon. Had nothing to do with it, but, I remember it now because I look back on the video, I'm like, oh, she didn't even know. And I got a call a few days later when I was on vacation that I had gotten the job, or that they were offering me the job, and I accepted it immediately. I told the other place bye-bye, I've accepted a position. I told them that on the Friday, that I had accepted something else when I hadn't. And got the job on the Monday. Interviewed on Friday, job on Monday. So it all worked out. So my biggest piece of advice is to let things play out like they're going to play out. There is a plan. God has a plan. And I firmly believe that God put me in the place where I'm supposed to be. Sorry if this sounds sappy. Gosh. Being home in my home district, my home middle school and high school, honestly feels, right now, I feel really comfortable in my district. So my main advice is to let it play out like it's going to play out. So I'm going to move on from college job search stuff because I've just told you the biggest piece of advice you can get. But I'm going to talk a little bit about my job, what it entails and stuff like that, because anybody in education knows it's a ride. It's a wild ride. So this kind of goes back to college stuff. What's one thing about being a middle school band director that college didn't prepare me for? I would say the number one thing that I face each and every day at work that college didn't teach me for is the emotional part of teaching. When a kid comes in, and as a band director, I see kids from the first day they step foot in the band room at 6th grade to the day they walk out on graduation day. When they come in and you can tell that something's going on, it is extremely hard to continue with your day, knowing that they are struggling. Because especially when you're closer to kids, you kind of want to get to the root of the problem. But you have a whole other class of kids that says you can't drop everything you're doing. So you try all the things. You try to just talk to the kid before class, after class, try to inject some humor into the class. When you have a kid that's struggling, it's extremely hard, for me personally, just to move on. There are the slew of other things, like other responsibilities that you're not prepared for, extra duties, things like that, but nothing prepares you for the emotional impact it can have. Okay, switching gears, something a little bit lighthearted. So what is the funniest or most chaotic part of teaching middle school band? I would say one of the most hilarious, chaotic things is the first day of 6th grade band. So as you can imagine, handing about 20 or more kids an instrument of their choice, teaching them how to make a sound on it, how to shape their face when they make a sound, or for percussion, how to hit it. And then you say, all right, when I count to 4, or when I say go, we're going to take a big deep breath and we're going to play for the first time ever. I want you to imagine the noise that comes out. It's something. And it's not always the worst sound in the world. It's just funny. They're very aware that they sound the way they do. And you have to act like they don't sound that way. It's a very exciting day. I would say that it's one of my favorite days. But it's also extremely funny sometimes. Another chaotic part is concert days. My kids know, and I kind of prime them the week of. I'm like, it's concert week. Leave your stupid questions at the door. Don't ask me when the concert is. It's on the board. Things like that. Concert week. Concert day. I turn into a completely different human, and my kids know that. I like to warn them well in advance that this is coming up, and I'm not the most kind, amazing person that you know, so give me a little grace, and I will give you some grace. But if you come in here acting crazy, you're gonna get the crazy. So the next couple of questions I'm gonna do is gonna be about summer break, since unfortunately we're off summer break now. And the first one for that is, how do you actually unplug during summer break when marching band prep is always looming? So the first half of that, I'm going to say the unplugging part, because that's a lot. You spend all the months throughout the year on checking your email in a timely manner, or calling someone back before you leave work to make sure that you get what you need by the next school day. That could be talking to admin or another coworker who needed you during the day, or you see that you have some missed calls from your coworkers, even on your personal phone. Because 90% of the time, I don't check my classroom phone for messages or missed calls because we use our cell phones now. So when summer finally rolls around, it can be really hard just to stop doing that. And I would say the first couple of weeks is the hardest. So my biggest way to unplug in the summer is to completely take any work-related apps off of my phone during the summer. I don't delete them because that means when I get back to school, I have to re-download and sign into things. And I'm not about that life. I have an iPhone, so I just offload them. Instead, what I do is I set reminders on my phone and I check my work email once a week. If someone needs me and it is urgent, they can text me or call me. Usually parents are really good about not even trying to contact you over the summer, or at least in my case. I make it very clear in a message to everybody right before we go on break that I'm on break too, and I will check your messages. Just understand that I'm not checking them around the clock, that it will take a while to hear from me. I think if you set your expectation for them before everybody goes on break, they're a lot more understanding. And then the second half of the question, when the marching band prep is already looming, I enjoy it. I don't mind. So the next topic is a really big one for me because I do extra things that are not teacher related. So band directing is notorious for consuming your entire life. How do you protect your personal time? I don't check my email in my off time. I actually have a setting on my phone. My email will not notify me. It won't ring, it won't pop up on my lock screen, nothing. So that has actually saved a lot of my peace, and in the rare event that I see something, I actually don't respond to emails after 3 o'clock now, or 3:30 really. But schedule send has been a lifesaver for me. I will schedule something if I see it and know I need to respond to it. When I am at home, I don't do work-related things. I don't even get on Google Classroom and check stuff. I don't grade at home. I don't take work home with me. You can tell that I haven't talked a lot lately, right? Whew! I feel like my sugar is low too. Indeed. So, as a band director, how do you find time to still perform and play your instruments for yourself? There's a couple of ways that I can answer this. On one hand, I don't perform as much during the school year. Any outside performances are typically Christmas. I do maintain a pretty consistent practice schedule, especially for the flute and piano, because those are my primaries. As for my additional instruments that I'm learning, like trumpet and the saxophone, I struggle to maintain, even in year 3, I struggle to maintain any kind of regiment for those. This one is in regards to my YouTube channel. How do you find the creative energy to film and edit after a long week of teaching? I don't. There are some occasions where I will film during the school week on the weekend. A lot of my content is now pre-recorded. Back in the 2019, 2020 times, I filmed a lot in real time and realized very quickly that that's not feasible for me. I'm so incredibly busy, and especially now with my job and my life, that I cannot afford to use my time to recoup for YouTube, especially when YouTube is not making me any money currently. For example, summer break. I will film a lot of content over breaks and then schedule them to post. So here's a good quick one. How do your outside hobbies help prevent teacher burnout? So essentially for me, filming and everything, and I spend a lot of time doing it, spend a lot of time doing the crafts that I do time lapses for as a way to help me relax at the end of the day. I also like to travel, and I don't vlog my travels as much anymore unless it's more of a destination place or it's more uncommon. I like to take time to do crafts and all that fun stuff to prevent teacher burnout. So for teachers, find something that you can just chill. And I think this will be the last question. And honestly, this is something that I get asked a lot by the folks who know me outside of the camera. And that is, what do your students think if and when, not or when, they find out that their band director makes videos online? And I always say that in the history of Tiger Lily Productions, from 2019 to now, I have always been very careful about what I share online. There's definitely been some crazy teenager or college activities. Nothing inappropriate, but I get asked a lot how I feel knowing that my students watch me. And hey students, I say I'm actually really comfortable with it. I don't mind that they know that I'm doing other things besides being their teacher. You know, the person behind the badge is actually a human who enjoys painting and crafts and cross-stitching and filming and editing. I love that, just the technology stuff associated with filming, that my life does not constantly revolve around band as much as I love it. I think that's important for them to see. When they come up and they say, hey, I really like that thing you painted. I actually feel really good about myself. And I guess as you could go on with that question, you could say, well, what if admin sees it? My admin has seen it. So yeah, we have sat here for about an hour now, which I'm surprised it only took me an hour. And I have made 4 pairs of earrings. We have blue. I'll bet you money that's not going to focus. Yellow, clear, and pink. I am very happy with how these turned out. They are very simple, but that is all I need to match up some outfits. I just need that little pop of color to match whatever I'm wearing, and the outfit's fixed. It adds to the theme, and my kids love that. So, I hope you enjoyed this craft and chat. I know I did. I'm tired of talking now, but I enjoyed just saying how life has been, basically, and hopefully giving some good advice or just sharing some insight on what it's like to be a music educator. If you like this style of video, let me know, because I did enjoy doing this, but obviously if you don't want to hear me talk, let me know, because I am technically a professional talker. If you have any further ideas for me, or if you have any questions for me to answer, go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I will see you next week.